Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, I'm GC Smith, and the battle for Zendikar Spoiler season is in full swing. Welcome to day 3, and let's get straight into it. So first up, we have Deathless Bam, 6 mana for a 6/6 Eldrazi with Vigilance, and sacrifice 2 Eldrazi Scions, return Deathless Bam from your graveyard to your hand. Activate this ability only any time you could cast a sorcery. Oh boy, this card is, well, I'm not going to say insane, but it is very good. The best card to compare this to in some respects is the recent Sky Snare Spider from Magic Origins. The 6 mana 6/6 with Reach and Vigilance Spider that was incredibly powerful in any deck you drafted it in. This card is going to do something very similar. Certainly this card can't block flyers, and that's going to be its real weakness and downfall. The fact you can chop block it and then swing through with flyers, because you're not really going to be easily able to swing through this 6/6 guy, and he's just going to keep coming back if you can. There are some things to mention here, though, is he does have to sacrifice the Scions to his ability, so you don't get mana from them. So that's one thing to remember. Also, you have to remember that as of this filming, we haven't seen that many non-rare sources for Eldrazi Scions. Certainly there will be some, but it doesn't look like you're going to have an endless supply of Scions, and that's where I think this card will be balanced and limited. A 6/6 for 6 that you can just keep casting endlessly, it would be pretty powerful and limited, beyond bonkers and limited, actually. So that's where the balance for this card's going to be. Limited, powerhouse, definitely pickable, like, all the time, assuming you get a deck that can get to 6 mana, which should be possible in Battle for Zendikar format, because it's a Battle Cruiser format. That said, let's take a look at this in constructed playability. I'm not certain it's there. It really depends on how the Eldrazi decks come along, and this could certainly be playable in some of them. Having a repeatable threat is definitely powerful, and if you have a repeatable way of getting Silence onto the field that you're willing to sacrifice to play this guy, then certainly this guy could see play. His weakness is, however, you can only do it as a sorcery, so you can't just do it at the end of your opponent's turn to have blockers and stuff back. It has to be done during your turn. That said, you can attack, then sacrifice them in the second main phase, the Scions, so that's one thing to deal with. Interesting card overall, really nice, uncommon, going to see it quite a bit in limited, and definitely first pickable. Second, we have Spawn of Akoum. 4 red, so 6 mana for a 4/4 dragon with flying and landfall. And the landfall effect is Spawn of Akoum deals 1 damage to target creature or player, and if that land was a mountain, it deals 2 damage instead. So this joins the cycle of 5 monocolored rare creatures of iconic creature types that have a landfall ability that increases if your land is of the type associated with that color. So mountain, swamp, that kind of thing. I have to say, however, this is one of the weaker ones we've seen so far. 6 mana for 4/4 fly is a decent body in limited, don't get me wrong, it's a great body, and the landfall ability can win you games. It can kill creatures, and it can deal enough damage to the players to win the game. But comparing this to the 5 mana 4/4 Sphinx, that really does a lot more because it taps down creatures and keeps them tapped, which helps not only it swing, but the rest of your team swing, which is really important. And the fact that this is a Battle Cruiser format, so there's going to be a lot of high toughness creatures, I'm not certain that Spawn of Akoum will do well in limited. And in constructed, I don't think the player powers there. 4 red is quite a lot to pay for a 4/4 flyer in constructed formats. And its ability, while certainly you can do 3 damage a turn with this, if you play a fetch land and fetch a mountain, you can do 3 damage in a single turn that way. Ultimately, it's a lot of, you can't do it until turn 6 at the earliest, and then from turn 6 onwards, 3 damage a turn. It can finish games, but so can drawing burn spells, and I'm not certain this is where any real red deck wants to be. Not unpickable and limited, I just wouldn't go out my way to first pick this one compared to maybe the blue one. But again, that really depends on what cards we see even more. This card could be a powerhouse if we see a lot of 1 and 2 toughness creatures. I know it can kill the Scions and maybe damage the ally strategy, but at the moment it doesn't seem like it'll be that big a player when we look at limited. I know there's a lot of people saying that it turns your land into removal spells, which is certainly a good thing. But you also have to remember it only removes the little creatures, and a lot of people are going to be wanting to draft Eldrazi or the big things, and I'm not certain this card will do a lot. The fact it's a flyer is definitely good. We've not seen any real Eldrazi with reach, but then again we have seen some flying Eldrazi. So again, I'm not sure how big a player this will be. Not unpowerful, not at all unpowerful. I just not really particularly excited or pleased by it myself. So next up we have Ulamog's Nullifier. Actually, we've got 4 of these kind of cards today, all of which are multicolored uncommons designed for the limited format. And this one is 2 blue-black for a 2/3 Eldrazi processor with Devoid, Flash, and Flying. So you might be wondering, because I have said before, and it has been said before, that the processors are the creature types in the Eldrazi that utilize the exiled cards that the Devour, or whatever the mechanic is called. The one where they steal the top card of your library and exile it. So yes, this one does utilize those. When Ulamog's Nullifier enters the battlefield, you may put 2 cards from your opponent's own opponent's own from exile into their owner's graveyards. If you're able to do that, counter target spell. This card is definitely interesting, and I like the fact that it's playable theoretically in both limited and constructed. In limited, it's a 2/3 flyer for 4, which is a great body. Passes the French vanilla test. It has Flash, which allows it to come down end of turn or mess with combat, which is always great. And occasionally, if you've managed to exile the top 2 cards of your opponent's library, or exile enough cards from your opponent's library, you're going to get a counter spell. So you're going to get a 2-for-1 or whatever this card will generate, because it's a threat and it counters the spell. Great card in that situation. In Standard, however, I think this is where this card will see a lot more play. Maybe not as a mainboard card, but definitely as a sideboard card against other control decks. A lot of the control decks are going to be utilizing Delve with things like Dig Through Time and Murderous Cut now, with Hero's Downfall rotating and us getting a sorcery speed version. Haste threats are going to need to be killed, and decks are going to want to have access to instant speed removal, so things like Murderous Cut will be the next big thing. So cards like this that can, after they've paid for Murderous Cut, come in the next, once they've exiled the cards for Murderous Cut, you can just counter the cut, is really nice. Cards that can counter things like Dig Through Times after they paid for it, again, is also really nice. Ulamog's Nullifier is a really cool card. And it definitely, I think, will see a lot of play in limited, definitely a high pick. Maybe not first pick, but definitely a high pick. And we may see some fringe play in blue-black control decks in Standard. Not a terrible card, not a bomb in that sense, but definitely a solid all-round, really cool card. Next up, we have the blue-white, multicolored uncommon for limited. Royal Spout, for 1 blue-white, is a sorcery, which puts target creature on top of its owner's library. Now, that on its own is unimpressive, considering we've had cards in the past like Azorius Charm that do this for 2 mana at instant speed. But this has Awaken 4 for 4 white-blue. So you can cast this early in the game to get rid of a creature and put it on top of that owner's library as kind of a pseudo 2-for-1. It's really a not even really a 2-for-1 in that sense. They get their creature back, and they will eventually draw it and get to play it again. So it's not really a hard removal spell, but it's a huge tempo gain. They have to basically time warp them to some degree. Their entire turn that they did last turn is removed, which is great, and their draw step is removed. So for that sense, it has a huge impact in the early stages of the game, and in the late stages of the game, you can remove a threat from your opponent's board and put your own threat into play. And depending on how the match has gone up, how much enchantments are playable and limited, how much equipment is playable and limited, you can really have messed with the board. Decent card overall. I'm not sure how to really analyze it until we see the whole format. It's not my top pick of the ones from today. I love white-blue as a colour scheme. I just think this card's a little too weak to be as ideal as I think it would. And I don't really see this card seeing any real constructed play. Even with Awaken, it's just far too little for too high a cost in constructed formats. Next up, we have the green-white gold card. Grove Tender Druids. 2 green-white for a 3/3 elf druid ally with Rally. Whenever Grove Tender Druids or another ally enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 1 colorless. If you do, you put a 1/1 green plant creature token onto the battlefield. Now, this guy is a solid card who will see lots of play in limited, an absolute solid limited pick. Not only does it trigger all your other rally cards, which is always great to have in an ally deck, but it gives you a small army in addition to all your other ally cards. And since most other rallies kind of affect every creature on the battlefield, this gives you an even bigger army. This is kind of like having your cake and eating it too. This is just a really powerful effect. Now, some say this might be, and the kind of thing, you can't even say it's a win more, as some people, I was about to say, some people might say, but you can't say this is a win more, because without this effect, you wouldn't be getting any of it in that sense, so it's not like you're winning more, it's just giving you a really powerful board position. Every ally contributes to it, and eventually you're going to have an army that gets out of control. This card is completely solid for limited, and it's a really good reason you can see how the ally decks are going to win these games, and it's going to be by going wide or going really powerful and really strong. It obviously looks like these kind of cards trying to inform how you play the 2-color deck in that format, so I'm going to be excited to see the rest of these cycles after the final one we look at today, which is Grove Rumbler. 2 red-green for a elemental creature for 3/3 with trample and landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, Grove Rumbler gets +2/+2 until end of turn. This card, like the Grove Tender Druids and the Ulamog's Nullifier, is an absolutely solid pick in limited. This card is actually really strong, really good, and will definitely be a first pickable choice in any limited format. It's a evasive creature for 4 mana, so 4 mana 3/3 trample is already something you might see in other limited formats, but this has the added value of every time you play a land, it gets +2/+2. Now, if there's any form of fetch land you get in your pool for whatever reason, so whether you open a Zendikar Expedition, or there's some form of natural fetch land or natural way of putting more lands on the field to trigger this multiple times a turn, this card can be very powerful. If there's some sort of fast seek equivalent or something that just searches your library for basic land and puts into play, this card can become incredibly powerful very quickly. Play a land for turn, search for land, get another land. Yeah, this card will be a definite limited powerhouse. I'm not sure there's much else I can say about that card. Next up, we have our final of the brand new cards for today. Tajuro Warcaller, 3 green for a 2/1 creature elf warrior ally. Which at the moment sounds a bit pretty uninspiring. However, whenever Tajuro Warcaller or another ally enters the battlefield under your control, creatures you control get +2/+2. That is pretty powerful. 5 mana for your entire team gets +2/+2 is a reasonable spell. Normally, you'd probably end up going up to 6 mana and getting trample on that kind of effect as well. But this is an absolute solid card. Especially if you combine it with cards like Grove Tender Druids, you're going to have a large army that just hits really hard. It's going to be really good. The fact that then this is a repeatable effect, by the way, assuming your creature survives, your Tajuro Warcaller survives, you're going to have a huge battlefield that keeps hammering your opponents. Definitely allies, at least green-white allies, whether or not there's other ally synergy in different colours. The green-white allies deck definitely seems to be some sort of going wide tokens strategy that just pumps your team. This looks just a really good card, solid card overall limited. And it's going to be like Triplicate Spirits or some other cards where less skilled players will see it as a 5 mana 2/1 and just say that's not playable, and more skilled players see that as a 5 mana repeatable source of +2/+2 for your entire team and helps you win the game. Not necessarily, I'm not saying you'd want more than one of these in your deck, but it's definitely going to be a powerful effect to have and get a hold of. So the final card we're going to be looking at today is not a new card, but rather a new artwork of an old card. Yes, that's right. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we have the Zendikar Expeditions, or Zendikar Expedition, not Zendikar Expeditions, the Zendikar Expeditions artwork of Flooded Strand. And unlike some of the complaints of some of the previous ones, you can actually tell what this is. Some people have said the other cards, previous cards, aren't really showing of correctly at least what the card looks like, but this is definitely looking like a flooded Strad, and it definitely looks blue and white, and it looks gorgeous, and it's just, oh, such a beautiful card. And please, let me open 4 in a single booster box. Yeah, I wish. It's going to be nice to see these cards, and I can't wait to see how gorgeous they look in foil. But that's the same for all of them, I think. All of them are going to look pretty good in foil and be pretty good for the people that want to play them or get a hold of them. It's always nice to get a $100 bill in a booster pack, isn't it? So that's it for the spoilers from today, ladies and gentlemen. If we do open, or if we do get new spoilers during the night, obviously I'll include them with tomorrow's video. And hopefully you look forward to it. I hope you enjoyed today's videos, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope you've been enjoying my entire series so far. Thankfully, I've been able to keep up with it. And if you want to see my next few videos, including other videos to do with Magic the Gathering, I'm trying to extend and do more regular videos for my channel. And as I'm getting into the habit of it, it gets easier to do. So if you want to see that, do not forget to subscribe. Like the videos, obviously, because it helps me, and share and comment about them. So thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.